Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Happy Tuesday to you. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're taking a look at Terra Classic once more. Just going to try to see what's going on with these Fibonacci retracement levels. It's actually working very well within the levels on its way up. So as I mentioned yesterday, it's going to keep stacking up to that resistance, reject down to the most recent support, and continue higher. It's doing that as well continuously here throughout the day. So it's really awesome to see Fibonacci kind of for the win. And we'll also take a look, of course, at traditional markets, kind of see what's going on. But honestly, it's pretty straightforward. Record markets are down once more, big surprise. And that's essentially where we're at for the moment. Whereas Terra Classic's taken a lot of that market capitalization from Bitcoin and effectively increasing because of its large amount of volume. Okay, so again, a lot of volume is coming into Terra Classic right now, where a lot of coins are struggling. Most altcoins are kind of drawn dead or retracing, where Terra Classic's doing well. So that's a very positive sign. Kind of an inverse pairing, so to speak. So that being said, if you're new to the channel, just know I'm not a financial advisor. I love teaching people to trade. If you want to become a better trader, cryptocash.tech is the site. If you want to have signals that we send out frequently, I basically share all of my trade signals with you. We took a good 20% here from BNB. That was just this morning after 3 days holding, as well as Ethereum, nice little 16% after 3 days. So again, the gains aren't massive right now. You got to recognize that. If you're using crazy leverage, of course, they'll be a little bit larger, but it's not recommended to do that. So just keep in mind, small gains are the right way to go as long as you're not losing too much. Okay, so again, minimize your loss, maximize your gains. You can do that here on Bitget as well, because it's a phenomenal exchange. They have really cool trailing stop losses and targets. There's a really good way of being able to articulate that. They have a really good demo too to help get you on the right track so you don't lose any money, just paper money. Okay, but again, when you start trading, you have a $10,000 prize pool if you use the link down below for our exchange here. And I say our exchange just because it's my favorite, our community's favorite, and we all pretty much use it for the most part. Okay, so awesome stuff there. Be sure to use that. And again, if you want to be using leverage, you do have to use a VPN. You do get 3 months free with a 12-month plan here for ExpressVPN, so make sure to check it out in your own time. All right, so here's the thing with Terra Classic. As I mentioned yesterday, it's going to continue higher. It's doing that. We didn't expect it to hit this high as fast as it did, though. So you got to keep in mind there is a bit of an overextension, and it makes sense as to why the price is pulling back. So we take a look at this here. We've got the 200-day simple moving average along with the 0.786 Fibonacci retracement level there, right there at about 17,700. That's going to be a strong resistance. Okay. As I mentioned before, we should have had a strong resistance at 16,500, but there was a short squeeze that occurred right here, pushing the price action higher. We'll see that on smaller time frames, but generally speaking, that had to have happened in order for that to push up further the way that it did. Okay, so the overextension allows for it to continue further than it should, based on the fact that there's a lot of shorts hedging their positions right there at that level and effectively closing their shorts and turning it to a long. Okay, so again, a lot of folks will do that. Some of my traders do that as well. It's called hedging your shorts to your longs, and it's really a smart play if you are able to anticipate that, right? So again, with this here, what we can see also is that the 70 on the RSI is going to be a potential resistance. It's going to be right up here, right around this level, about 19,200. So we're not there yet, but generally speaking, with this RSI continuing higher, we can expect it to reject off that level, but we have more room to grow. That's the key takeaway here, is that there's more room to run. And if you look at TD sequential, we are just barely halfway through this progress. In other words, we're 5 days into a continuation of the upside, and as you can see, it went a full 9 days before it turned itself around. So hypothetically, we could see 4 more days of continuation to the upside, or at the very least, just something that starts to kind of taper off over to the side. Okay, so some kind of consolidation. That'd be perfect, because then it could leg up again, or potentially retrace and come back down to bounce off of one of those key level supports. Nonetheless, the daily is looking very good here in the overall sense, but we can see we got rejected off the 200-day SMA, as well as 17,700 working as a resistance level. So just remember that could very well hold its point, hold the price action below that level for some time. We're actually hoping that it does, so that way we don't get too much of an overextension to the upside and a massive retracement. Because again, the harder something shoots up, the harder it's going to fall. So if it just kind of edges up naturally and more, with more, I guess, health, if it's a healthy continuation, that's how I like to call it, then I would say that you should expect the price to go up and over. And if it continues to go up immediately, we would have a problem. Keep this in mind too. We are 2 days into a very strong push. So hypothetically, there could very well be a third strong green day. Keep in mind, a lot of things happen in threes with trading. Also 50 is a common number you'll see a lot as well, which is why we had a short squeeze right here where the 50-day SMA had intersected with the price action, rejected the price down, and then bounced right off that support. Okay, so again, a lot of like normal stuff is happening right now with Terra Classic. It's just that we got to kind of recognize that this is overextended. I'm willing to speculate this is a 9 right here, this larger candle, or perhaps even the one before. And what I mean by 9 is basically just we had 9 4-hour candles leading into that. So we take a look here, we can see the price, of course, just to rewind a little bit. Let's go ahead and start with this first. Okay, so we come up here, test this resistance level, get rejected, bounce off that key level support, come back up, and we hit a 9 here on TD sequential. That 9 really tells us that we have 9 candles in a row where the price action continues higher than the 4th previous. Okay. So that being said, when we hit that 9, the price goes sideways from here. Big surprise. It then legs up continuously up to another 9 here. Okay, now this happened sometime last night in the middle of the night for us here in the US, where we were kind of snoozing through that, likely, at least I know I probably was, and generally speaking that overextension occurred, and what was normally supposed to happen is the price is supposed to pull back. Okay, but that's a key level resistance. This is right where the 50-day simple moving average had progressed its way down, right? So with that being a strong resistance level and the price action squeezing above that, that shot the price action much further than it needed to go, and that's why we got this extreme overextension here. Okay, so again, that's why you see an increase in volume, because the shorts are getting wiped out and then they're replacing it with their longs, and a lot of cases in point, basically just bottom line is a lot of trades are getting closed based on that simple sentiment that there's probably a stop loss in place just above that key level resistance. That's where you'd normally set your resistance level, right? Normally you'd set a stop loss just above a strong resistance, okay? At least if you're shorting, okay? To the long side, obviously the other approach would apply. You would basically put it just below. Either way, trying to get the point across here in the sense that we're at a 9 on TD sequential, and obviously we should expect a pullback here moving forward. Okay, that's just a very strong overextension. We can see that very similar overextension here on the RSI as well. Remember I mentioned yesterday, if you jump up over 70 on the RSI, a lot of times it can come down and bounce. It did exactly that. Okay, it bounced right here off this Fibonacci level of 15,600. So what we can disseminate here is that it's overextended and a pullback would make sense, but how hard of a pullback would happen, okay? Well, it's hard to say with the momentum that it has and the fact that we're not super overextended on the daily, tells me that we might see a pullback only to about the 16,400 range. If it were to come back down there, the likelihood of a bounce seems likely, just based on the simple fact that, again, we have 2 of the 3 white soldiers, if you will. That's a typical candlestick pattern, 3 white soldiers. Look that up if you're not familiar with it. And the ideal scenario here would be the price to come down and bounce off that level. It could very well retrace further, don't get me wrong, because it is overextended. There's no doubt about that. You get 2 9s in a row on the 4-hour time frame, it's going to continue to want to come back down. Just keep in mind, right here after the first 9, we had a really strong 24-hour consolidation period, and then the price legged up from there. So that really told us that the bears were losing control here, and that the price is continuing up, and now the bears have completely given up, and there's a chance they might try again here soon. Okay. So the 4-hour really looks pretty good, minus the fact that it's overextended. And to me, I try not to buy into an overextension, because again, it doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense, but Terra Classic has legs right now and it's running. Okay. So let's look at the 1 hour and just kind of wrap this up here. So first things first, we look at the cloud, everything's green lights here. So if you have a long position open, no reason to close it. You got plenty of time before the price action has a chance to either pull back or increase. Okay. In other words, this is really just telling us conservatively that you want to keep your position open because it might continue to run, right? So that being said, conversion line above the baseline, we have good momentum to the upside. If the price were to come back down, just say for example, it should hypothetically bounce off of this upper lead on the cloud. That's what should happen, okay? So again, with consolidation, just say the price consolidates sideways, we'll be naturally above that cloud and it'll continue higher because of that. So what we're hoping for is the price goes sideways from here and then it legs up again. It very well should do that because it had this similar pattern here before and it continued higher from there. Okay, so we're hoping for a decently large consolidation period. We want at least 24 hours in this range and then the next leg up should occur. Okay, again, should and could, 2 different things, right? So we'll see what happens. Now, the last thing we want to take a look at here is, once again, TD sequential on the hourly. And this is something we want to identify. So we've hit 3 9s in a row now. 1 9, 2 9, and now 3 9s. Okay, so the more 9s you see in order, the more strength it gives in the opposite direction. Okay, so there's a decent chance that this could very well leg down to at least 16,500. maybe even further, but at this point, with the daily not being overextended and looking very healthy, I think there's a good chance we're probably going to see a third green day. It would make sense. But again, the 4 hour we've seen 2 nines, and on the 1 hour we've seen 3 nines. A retracement would make sense. A correction should happen in the near future. It may not happen today, but I'm confident it will happen sometime this week. So just be ready and mindful for that. Between now and then, obviously depending on your trading style, you want to articulate your trade type. And to me, if I was to be taking a long position, I wait for a pullback because it feels like it's going to pull back a little bit further. But again, sometimes you can be patient and you never get filled. That's just the way it goes. That's what trading is all about. But on the same accord, you gotta be patient in order to get those good entries, because it's better to take less trades that are going to hit their targets than consistently over trading like crazy and getting hit on slippage. Right. So again, a lot of different strategies, of course. But me, I'd rather be patient, wait for the price to pull back a little bit. It may not do that, but on the same accord, it very well should. If that makes sense, right? Because again, we're overextended on all time frames except for the daily, which does imply we could see a third green day. Okay, so I'd be willing to speculate that we're going to see a third green day here, and that we're going to then see some type of pullback after that. That would probably make the most sense considering the way that things are going right now. Because again, the regular market sucks. There's no other way around it. And this is like the only coin taking all that liquidity, or not the only coin, but the majority of the volume is coming into Terra Classic. And it makes sense. It's a very common characteristic. Just keep in mind, too, on the daily, that this coin has a tendency of turning itself around after 3 or 4 days. Or in other words, we see here, comes up to a 5 and goes sideways and down from there. Okay, so it's pretty consistent in that sense. It doesn't hit 9s super often. Again, for the most part, each one of these runs are just kind of short, brief spurts. It has run pretty large in the past, don't get me wrong, that was the very first run, but I don't think we're going to see that for a while. Okay, so just be realistic here. There's a likelihood of a third green day here, but on the same accord, a pullback would make absolute sense here in the near future. Be ready for it. I think we're going to see some kind of correction. It may not be massive. I'm hoping just right down to 16.5 and then bounce from there. Because look at how perfect this is. It comes up to this resistance level of 16.5, comes down to bounce perfectly off of 15.6, and then continues higher. That's a very common characteristic. So at this point, having broken that plane, it could very well use that as a pivot point for a next leg up. Okay. All right. Anyways, I think I spoke too much here. I apologize. Hopefully this wasn't too long for you. Thanks again for watching. I hope you learned something today, of course. If you want to become a better trader, obviously, cryptocash.tech is a site, link down below. Make sure you join up there sooner than later, just because your rate will be grandfathered in when we do adjust rates for next year, of course, with the new website and all the new features. So I hope that you are having a great rest of your day. Wonderful holiday as well. We'll look forward to seeing you next one. Take care.